Have you ever noticed that one week coffee is called a superfood, and the next week it's supposedly harming your health? One headline praises eggs as the perfect breakfast, another warns you to avoid them. Social media is filled with confident voices claiming they have discovered the ultimate diet, the perfect supplement, or the one habit that will transform your health overnight. Yet, despite having more health information than any generation before us, rates of chronic illness continue to rise. So, what's going wrong? According to many researchers, the greatest threat to your health today isn't necessarily a lack of information. It's believing information that only sounds scientific. And that may be one of the biggest mistakes people make when trying to live longer and healthier lives. The surprising part is that misinformation rarely looks obvious. It often comes wrapped in impressive graphics, technical language, celebrity endorsements, or dramatic personal stories. It feels convincing because our brains are naturally drawn to certainty, especially when it comes to something as important as our health. But scientists have learned that real health discoveries rarely emerge from dramatic claims. Instead, they are built through years of careful observation, repeated experiments, and evidence that survives constant questioning. Understanding the difference could influence countless decisions you make over the coming years, from what you eat every morning to how you exercise, sleep, and care for your brain as you age. And perhaps most importantly, it could help you avoid wasting time, money, and energy chasing advice that was never supported by strong evidence in the first place. However, that's only the beginning of the story, because the biggest challenge isn't spotting obviously false information. It's recognizing advice that contains just enough truth to sound believable. Our brains are wired to look for simple explanations. We like stories with clear heroes and villains. We want one nutrient to blame, one food to celebrate, or one supplement to solve everything. Science almost never works that way. Human biology is incredibly complex. Every meal we eat contains thousands of natural compounds interacting with trillions of cells inside our bodies. Our genes influence how we respond to food. Our sleep changes metabolism. Exercise alters hormone levels. Stress affects immunity. Even the bacteria living in our digestive system participate in processes researchers are still trying to fully understand. This means that health outcomes rarely depend on one single factor. Yet much of the health content we encounter suggests exactly the opposite. You only need this, never eat that. Doctors were wrong.
Scientists finally admit.
These statements grab attention because certainty feels comforting. But research suggests that certainty without evidence can become one of the most expensive habits we develop. And this is where the story takes an unexpected turn. The most reliable health experts often sound less certain than internet influencers. That may seem backwards. Wouldn't the smartest people have all the answers? In reality, genuine scientists are trained to think differently. Instead of asking, "How can I prove I'm right?" they ask, "How might I be wrong?" That difference changes everything. Every important scientific discovery begins with questions, not conclusions. Researchers design experiments specifically to challenge their own ideas. Other scientists attempt to repeat those findings. Independent groups look for mistakes. Evidence accumulates gradually. Only after many studies point in the same direction does confidence begin to grow. This process may appear slow,
Sometimes frustratingly slow, but that slowness is actually one of science's greatest strengths.
It protects us from jumping to conclusions based on coincidence or wishful thinking. Consider nutrition research. Imagine someone starts eating more vegetables while also walking every day, sleeping better, reducing stress, and losing weight. Months later, their blood pressure improves. What caused the improvement? Was it the vegetables, the walking, the better sleep, the weight loss, or all of them working together? Researchers spend years trying to answer questions like these because separating cause from coincidence is incredibly difficult. Most people never hear about what happened next. Scientists developed increasingly sophisticated methods to understand these complex relationships. Large population studies allow researchers to observe patterns across thousands of people over many years. Randomized controlled trials compare different interventions under carefully designed conditions. Systematic reviews combine results from multiple studies. Meta analyses look for consistent trends across entire fields of research. None of these methods are perfect. Each has strengths, each has limitations. But together, they help build a much clearer picture than any single study ever could. Unfortunately, headlines rarely explain this. Instead, one isolated study becomes breaking news. A mouse experiment suddenly becomes advice for millions of people. A preliminary finding becomes a viral trend before researchers have time to verify it. Evidence indicates this creates confusion, not because science keeps changing its mind, but because the public often sees only tiny pieces of an ongoing scientific conversation. That conversation never really stops. Researchers continue asking better questions. They gather stronger evidence. Sometimes previous ideas become stronger. Sometimes they become weaker. Sometimes entirely new discoveries reshape what we thought we knew. That isn't failure. That's exactly how science is supposed to work. Yet the real discovery came years later. Scientists began noticing that people who lived exceptionally long, healthy lives often had something unexpected in common. It wasn't that they followed one perfect diet. It wasn't one miracle food. It wasn't one supplement. Instead, they consistently built lifestyles around evidence supported habits that reinforced one another over decades. Their eating patterns tended to include plenty of minimally processed foods. They stayed physically active throughout life. They maintained strong social relationships. They managed stress reasonably well. They prioritized sleep. They avoided smoking. None of those habits sound particularly exciting. They certainly don't make flashy headlines. But together, research suggests they create powerful long-term effects. This may actually explain why sensational health claims become so popular. Simple solutions are emotionally satisfying. Real health is wonderfully ordinary. That doesn't mean science lacks exciting discoveries, far from it. Over the past 2 decades, researchers have dramatically expanded our understanding of how food communicates with our bodies. Instead of viewing nutrition simply as calories and vitamins, scientists now recognize food as a source of thousands of biologically active compounds. Some plant compounds appear to interact with blood vessels. Others may support immune function. Some influence inflammation. Others appear connected to the health of our gut microbiome. Rather than acting like medicines, many of these compounds seem to participate in complex biological systems that support normal body functions. This perspective represents a profound shift. Instead of asking only how many calories are in this meal, scientists increasingly ask, how does this meal interact with the body's natural processes? Research into healthy aging has expanded this idea even further. Scientists now study processes such as chronic inflammation, metabolic flexibility, cellular repair, blood vessel health, and immune resilience. These systems don't operate independently. They constantly communicate. When one improves, others often benefit as well. That interconnectedness helps explain why healthy habits tend to work together rather than separately. And this leads to one of the most important lessons in modern health science. Small improvements can accumulate. Imagine improving sleep slightly. Better sleep supports healthier food choices. Healthier eating may provide more stable energy. Stable energy makes exercise easier. Exercise improves cardiovascular fitness. Physical activity supports better mood. Improved mood may reduce chronic stress. Reduced stress can contribute to better sleep. One positive change reinforces another. Researchers sometimes refer to these as positive feedback loops. They don't create overnight transformation. Instead, they gradually shift the body's environment toward greater resilience. The opposite can happen as well. Poor sleep increases cravings. Unhealthy eating reduces energy. Lower energy discourages movement. Less movement affects metabolism. Stress increases. Sleep worsens further. Small negative habits can also compound over time. This is one reason why credible health information matters so much. If you're acting on poor advice, those decisions may repeat every single day without you realizing it. And because chronic diseases often develop slowly, the consequences aren't immediately visible. That's exactly what makes misleading health advice so dangerous. Not because it's dramatic, because it's gradual. However, here's something encouraging. The same principle works in your favor. Evidence suggests that consistent, healthy behaviors may also accumulate gradually over years. You don't need perfection, you need direction. Researchers studying longevity repeatedly observed that long term consistency usually matters more than short bursts of extreme effort. This finding surprises many people. Modern culture celebrates dramatic transformations. Science often rewards sustainable routines, and perhaps no area illustrates this better than exercise. Many people assume they need intense workouts every day. Research paints a different picture. Regular movement, even moderate movement performed consistently, has been associated with benefits for cardiovascular health, metabolic function, brain health, mobility, and healthy aging. Walking, strength training, balance exercises, flexibility, daily movement. These habits may not generate viral headlines, but they continue appearing across decades of research. The same pattern appears in nutrition. Healthy dietary patterns consistently outperform extreme restriction. Eating enough fruits and vegetables, choosing fiber rich foods, including healthy sources of protein, favoring minimally processed foods more often than heavily processed alternatives, maintaining flexibility rather than perfection. Scientists continue investigating exactly why these patterns seem beneficial across diverse populations. The answers are becoming increasingly fascinating because researchers now believe food doesn't simply provide energy, it provides information. Every meal becomes a biological conversation between the external environment and the internal systems that keep us alive. And understanding that conversation may become one of the defining health advances of our generation. But before we explore how scientists believe food communicates with blood vessels, immune cells, metabolism, and even the brain, there's another critical mistake that millions of people unknowingly make every day. It's a mistake that has nothing to do with what they eat. It has everything to do with how they judge health information itself. Once you understand this simple mental habit, evaluating new health claims becomes dramatically easier, and you'll begin seeing headlines in a completely different way. The mistake begins with a question that almost nobody asks. Not, does this claim sound convincing? Not, how many people shared this video? Not even, does the person speaking seem knowledgeable? The better question is much simpler. What kind of evidence supports this claim? That single question can completely change the way you evaluate health information. Imagine someone says a particular supplement transformed their energy, helped them lose weight, and improve their memory. Their story may be completely genuine. They may sincerely believe the supplement made the difference. But personal experiences, while meaningful, cannot tell us whether something truly caused an outcome. Perhaps they also started exercising. Perhaps they improved their sleep. Perhaps they reduced stress at work. Perhaps they simply experienced natural variation over time. This is exactly why researchers rely on carefully designed studies rather than individual stories alone. Human beings naturally notice patterns, even when no real connection exists. It's one of the reasons our species became so successful. Recognizing patterns helped our ancestors survive. But that same strength can sometimes mislead us. If two events happen close together, our brains instinctively connect them. Scientists have spent generations developing methods to separate genuine cause and effect relationships from coincidence. That process isn't glamorous, but it is incredibly valuable. And this leads to another surprising insight. The strongest health advice often isn't based on one spectacular study. It's based on dozens or even hundreds of studies that point in the same direction. Think of scientific evidence like assembling a giant puzzle. Each study contributes one piece. Some pieces fit perfectly, some don't. Some are later replaced by better evidence. Over time, the overall picture becomes clearer. When many independent researchers, working in different countries with different populations, repeatedly observe similar findings, confidence gradually increases. That is why evidence based health recommendations tend to evolve slowly rather than swinging wildly from one extreme to another. Of course, that doesn't mean every question has been answered. Science is constantly uncovering new layers of complexity. Take the human gut microbiome. Only a few decades ago, many people thought of bacteria simply as germs to eliminate. Today, researchers have identified trillions of microorganisms living inside the digestive system that appear to participate in digestion, immune function, metabolism, and even communication with the brain. Scientists are still learning exactly how these relationships work. What they do know is that the foods we eat may influence which microbes thrive.
Fiber rich foods appear to nourish beneficial microbial communities because many microbes ferment fiber into compounds that may support the health of the intestinal lining and influence immune responses. Highly processed diets, on the other hand, may reduce microbial diversity in some individuals. The story is still unfolding. Researchers continue exploring how these microscopic organisms interact with nearly every aspect of human health. And this is where the science becomes truly remarkable. Your body isn't simply reacting to food, it's responding to thousands of chemical signals every single day. Colorful berries contain naturally occurring compounds that researchers are studying for their potential interactions with blood vessels. Leafy green vegetables provide nutrients involved in numerous biological processes. Legumes supply fiber, protein, and minerals that may support metabolic health. Nuts and seeds contain healthy fats and plant compounds associated with cardiovascular health. Fatty fish provide omega-3 fatty acids that researchers continue investigating for their role in brain and heart health. No single food does everything. Instead, dietary variety creates a wide range of biological signals that work together. This is one reason many nutrition scientists emphasize overall eating patterns instead of searching for one perfect food. However, that's not the most interesting part. Perhaps the greatest discovery in healthy aging isn't about adding more, it's about consistency. Research on long-lived populations repeatedly suggests that sustainable daily habits matter far more than occasional bursts of motivation. Most people dramatically overestimate what can happen in 1 week. At the same time, they underestimate what may happen over 10 or 20 years. Imagine improving your sleep by just 30 minutes each night, choosing a nutritious lunch most weekdays, taking a brisk walk after dinner, adding 2 strength training sessions each week, managing stress with regular relaxation practices. None of these actions seem extraordinary, yet over years, they represent thousands of healthy decisions. Those decisions shape muscle strength, bone health, cardiovascular fitness, metabolic flexibility, cognitive resilience. Researchers studying aging increasingly describe health span, not simply lifespan, as one of the most meaningful goals. Living longer certainly matters, but living well matters just as much. Remaining independent, staying mentally sharp, maintaining mobility, continuing to enjoy relationships, hobbies, travel, and everyday life. Evidence suggests that many of the same habits associated with longevity are also associated with preserving quality of life. And perhaps that's the most encouraging message of all. Many important health habits remain accessible regardless of age. The body continues adapting throughout life. Muscles respond to resistance training well into older adulthood. Cardiovascular fitness can improve with regular activity. Sleep habits can often be strengthened. Nutrition can improve at any stage. Balance and coordination can be trained. Even the brain demonstrates remarkable adaptability through a property known as neuroplasticity. Scientists have observed that learning new skills, staying socially engaged, exercising regularly, and challenging the mind may help support cognitive health throughout aging. Again, none of these are guarantees. Health is influenced by genetics, environment, medical history, and countless other factors. But evidence consistently indicates that lifestyle choices remain meaningful contributors. This balanced perspective is important because health information often falls into two extremes. One extreme suggests everything is determined by genetics.
The other implies every outcome is completely under personal control. Neither reflects the full picture.
Genes certainly matter, but genes often interact with lifestyle. Environment matters. Behavior matters. Chance also plays a role. Recognizing this complexity helps us make informed decisions without expecting perfection. And perhaps that's one of the most liberating lessons science has to offer. You don't have to chase every new trend. You don't have to panic every time a sensational headline appears. You don't have to buy every supplement that promises extraordinary results. Instead, you can build your health on principles supported by decades of research. Eat a wide variety of minimally processed foods whenever possible. Move your body regularly in ways you can maintain. Protect your sleep as carefully as you protect your schedule. Strengthen your muscles throughout life. Stay connected with people who matter. Continue learning. Manage stress with healthy routines. And remain curious. Curiosity may be one of the healthiest habits of all. Curiosity encourages better questions. Better questions lead to better decisions. Better decisions, repeated consistently, gradually shape better outcomes. That doesn't mean you'll never encounter conflicting information. Science will continue evolving. New discoveries will emerge. Some recommendations will be refined. Others will become stronger. That's not a weakness. It's evidence that researchers are continuing to learn. The goal isn't to find information that never changes. The goal is to understand which conclusions are supported by the strongest body of evidence available today while remaining open to better evidence tomorrow. That mindset protects us from both blind skepticism and blind belief. It allows us to appreciate science not as a collection of absolute answers, but as one of humanity's most reliable tools for discovering truth. And perhaps that's the greatest takeaway from all. Credible health information isn't exciting because it promises miracles. It's powerful because it helps us make better choices, one decision at a time. Those choices accumulate quietly. The meal you prepare today, the walk you take this evening, the strength exercises you complete this week, the extra hour of sleep you prioritize, the decision to question a sensational headline before believing it. Individually, each action may seem small. Collectively, they become the foundation of a healthier future. Years from now, it probably won't be one dramatic moment that shapes your health. It will be thousands of ordinary moments that nobody else ever notices. Choosing water instead of another sugary drink, preparing one more balanced meal at home, taking the stairs, calling a friend, reading reliable information instead of scrolling through misinformation, going to bed a little earlier, repeating those habits again tomorrow. Healthy aging isn't built through perfection. It's built through consistency, adaptability, and a willingness to keep learning. The remarkable thing about evidence-based science is that it gives us confidence without demanding certainty. It reminds us that while no single habit guarantees perfect health, our daily choices still matter. Every nutritious meal, every walk, every good night's sleep, every thoughtful decision is an investment in the person you will become years from now. The decisions we make today may seem small, but over years and decades, those choices can shape how we age, how we feel, and how long we remain healthy. That's why understanding the science matters. If you found this discussion valuable, consider sharing it with someone who wants to make informed decisions about their health. And remember, the most powerful health advice is rarely the loudest. More often, it's the advice that continues to stand strong as the evidence grows.